Hey, this is Keith from Save the Rust. Today we're going to start on part 2 of introducing you to the frame straightening jig table that we made and starting the process of straightening this frame. So at this point what I've done is I've leveled the table. I got to make sure that the table is perfectly level because I want everything to be squared. So when I start tightening down the frame to the jig, I run the 4-foot level on the back engine mounts, and that's crucial. Everything's got to be perfectly level. So here we are. Table's nice and straight. I could show you the level. You'll just have to, trust that I've done that. Next step, put it on the back motor mount. So at this point, I need to pull the table over, or pull the frame over a little bit. And that's how we're going to accomplish that. We're going to start shimming the transmission because this is where we're going to be tightening down most of it. What I did notice though is on this frame, where it goes into the C-post, it isn't perfectly flat in there. It's about 1/8 of an inch higher. Again, I believe there's 2 different foundries that Harley used to make this bottom cradle, which is all cast, and so there's a little bit of variations. That's not the first time I haven't seen that. So follow along, and I'm going to show you how we start with getting this frame in the jig. So right now, I just want to show you. You can see the bubble in the level. That's right where we want to be. So right now, we're off to the side a bit too much. And I wanted to show you that bottom piece. You see how there's the gap right there where it goes into the bottom of the C-post? It's not perfectly flat, but it's hitting in the front and it's flat on the transmission. So what we're going to do is, in order to get it level, is we're going to have to shim the one side of the transmission to my mount. And I've done this in the past using a shim stock or a washer. It really depends on how thick I need it, and we're going to go from there. So first thing is just make sure all the bolts are all nice and loosened, so I got good movement. And I've used this shim in the past, so first thing, just try it. I kind of shove it in between the frame and the jig. And this is going to go on, back and forth a few times because, well, for one, as soon as you start tightening up a bolt, it pulls this frame over. So it might be a little tough, but set up the camera so you can see the bulb. It'll be tough, but so it feels like I have to shim this a bit more. But before I do that, let's just tighten it up and see. Yeah, so you can see it's pretty tight already, like it's tight on the frame. So what I'll do is I'll just loosen this all up now and try shimming it a bit more and see if we can get this this straight. So by using the back motor mount, that's probably the one spot that's protected as above anything else that shouldn't be bent. Not saying it could be bent, but because there's only a short stub here of actual tubing from this large cast piece. So the possibility of it being bent would probably only occur in an accident where the motor was literally hit quite hard. So right now, that's what you always have to, that's what I assume is the straightest point. The front point, I wouldn't go off that because it can be bent if it was in an accident or not. And I found when I put a motor in, let's say at this stage, and I check the alignment and how much shimming would be required on the front mount and back mount. So when you install a Harley motor in these vintage bikes, the first thing you want to do, tighten up your back mounts. So tighten up one, and then check, like as you're looking at it, check to make sure that they're both flush. And the one that actually touches the motor mount, if the other side isn't, because you might have to shim that side, because they are two different sets of cases, you just never know. So you tighten up that side, then if you had to, which is very rare, shim the opposite side. And then you go into your front mount after this is all torqued down and check how much shim material you need on the front motor mount. And what I found is after I'm done straightening, I require a lot less shimming in the front motor mount because I've twisted this frame and got it back straight to where it was closer to how it came out of the factory. So again, we'll just kind of take all this, loosen this all up, and so what I'm gonna do is, you can see how I had it folded in half. So now I'm gonna put the whole material and just see if I have to start removing a bit more or not. So we'll slide that in there. So it's literally going on one side. And if you look at the bubble right now is really nice. It's really perfect. So we'll try tightening this down again. Constantly looking at the bulb, you know. So right now, it's looking like we might have to shim a bit more, but before we do that, we always tighten up the other mount because we're gonna compress that shim a little bit. And we're pretty close. We're, you know, just a hair. Like it's in between the lines, but I want to get it just a bit more perfect. So I'm gonna grab a bit more shim stock and add it to this side and see if we can get this frame even better. Like, I mean, right now, if I push on it just that much, just a little bit of tension, I'm pushing it exactly in the center. So I can either do it right here and then deal with the top, because there's a bar that goes in here, and this requires a lot of shimming. This actually takes a lot of time just to get it right because you got to shim it in different spots. But I'm gonna just add a bit more shim stock. So at this point, I've got the back motor mount perfectly level to the table, which is also level. I've got 2 bolts in the transmission plate here and one on the another mount. I got 3 bolts here, all tightened up. The frame is solid, like really solid. The next step is this. So what happens is this goes in between these two vertical posts, and I have to use that piece I had machined that I used to drive the seat post bushing in, and this will go into this receiver and into the seat post bushing, which is nice and solid. And what now I put bolts through these, and this is where we'll start shimming. Again, always watching that level, because just a little bit of movement and I can push it back and forth. One of the things I noticed on this frame is this back leg here. There's a flat spot here. There's been a dent here. I'm not sure what we can do there. I haven't replaced any tubing yet on legs like this, but at least I'll let the owner know. And I did notice also when I started looking at some of the light, just the light, how you gotta watch like a car. When you're looking down a fender and you see a wave from the lights, that's where, using the lights to see your planes, you'll see the reflection of the light in your frame, and you'll see if it's straight or if it veers off. That's going to give you a kind of a telltale that there's an issue there. So there is a couple issues here. We'll have to figure out what we can and can't do there. And I did also notice right over here, right here, when you run your hand along it, you can feel some indents. So there's been some distortion here. I don't feel anything on the top tube, so it's kind of strange, why there's some waviness in this point, because this is all protected. So it should be more on this plane than this plane would. So we'll continue. So there's definitely some alignment issue here. I usually can get these in quite easily, and they're off quite a bit. So I got to look at this frame and just see. What else is bent? So I pulled out the laser level, and I just positioned it off the back, kind of using the center hole for the rear fender, and then what it does is it goes down and goes up the back center post. And because I usually have very little issues getting the bolts, these bolts into this frame part that goes into the seat post. And this helps keep the top alignment perfect. This is the worst I've ever seen as far as I can't get it in. So what's going on is that there's something going on in this area, and it's going to have to be rectified before I can even get this in. So I got to figure that out. I got to figure out how I'm going to do, you know, kind of push and pull and get this section here at least in line, so I can get this frame tubing in, this frame support in. So yeah, you're seeing, you're gonna be watching me figure out a frame that is probably gonna be the worst I've ever done. What I'll do is I'll get the camera and I'll show the situation I'm in. So right now, this should be level, and this bolt I can't get it in because this point is so much higher. So if you look at the laser level, and I just got it kind of set up to kind of go off center, and if you look up as it goes up, I think this tube is bent right here. Actually, I can feel it is. So there's a lot more damage to this frame than initially I even thought. So when you go up the laser level, just look at this point. I mean, so I just got it roughly kind of set up, kind of centered here. Let's just adjust it just ever so slightly. Okay, so that's about it. And you look at this point, it's off by 1/4 to 3/8. This should be in the center here. This is off quite a bit too. And this plane is higher on this end, so that means that this frame has been tweaked this way. Otherwise, that's why it's raised up this side. So before I even can get anywhere near the neck, I'm gonna have to do some straightening at that point. I might have to actually take this perimeter frame and drill new holes for it. Put it down here so I'm in line with my rear frame tube. So that I can push off one side, pull on the other, and get that frame tube straight. The seat post, seat post straight. That's crazy. Like right here, right in this point, I can actually feel a depression. That's probably why they had to torch out the bottom where I had to fix it, because it concaved in here, it probably grabbed the seat posts and held it in position. So I'm going to do a little bit more investigating here. And so one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to plane down the motor mounts with a file, get this all nice and flat. You can see how there's highs and low spots, really evident on the front. You can even feel it with your finger. So I should have done this before I tightened this down. I kind of forgot to do it, but that'll be the first thing. And if I have to readjust the frame to the table after this, I will. 2, 1. So where we are right now is I can't get this top brace in, and on this side, where the frame's sitting, it's actually kind of crooked. It's actually forward and higher. So what I did is start measuring this. For sure, this side is higher. I'm going off the bottom of this. It's at least 1/8 of an inch, if not more. I'm going to probably try it in a different position here. Just use a different point of reference. Yeah, it's about 1/8 of an inch higher. So yeah, I'm gonna have to move this perimeter frame back here, drill all new holes, tap them all, so I can start manipulating this center post, so that at least I can start getting the jig in position. And once I start doing that, that'll twist the frame down a bit. This one's got my head scratching a bit here. Never have I had to deal with one that bad, but hey, that's part of the process. That's how you learn, by pushing yourself and you know, figuring things out as they come. You've seen I'm working on that Flanders. I'm not really scared of trying things and, you know, taking on challenges. So what we'll do is we'll stop for tonight. Sorry for, I was hoping to get a lot further along on this, getting actually some of the porta powers in position to give you an idea of how we're going to pull and push, but we're going to have to do a lot more re-engineering for this frame. So here's one more look. So really hard to see, but at the very base, I've got it basically in the center. As it comes up the tube, this should be centered. It's not. It's over by a solid 1/4 inch. Then you look up the tube, and I know it's hard to see, but it's really off. So that should be in line. That should be all straight. That line should go right down the backbone. Motor mounts are perfectly flat. So we got that. I did take the level. This isn't, you know, really accurate because, you know, I'm just laying it across the frame tubes, but it's above both of those, the mount, and you can see how off that is, you know. So that those two tubes in relation to each other are quite a bit off. So if I lifted it up, you know, there's probably 3/8 of an inch. So we got our work cut out for this one. Wow. So I got my protractor on. You can see I'm off probably about 2 degrees. So really thinking about this frame, it for sure had been hit or bent there. So right now the engine cradle and motor mounts are perfectly square. They're level. And what's happened is the entire rest of the frame from that point is bent this way. So I might sound like a broken record, but just I'm, you know, having to think about this, you know, kind of figure out what my game plan here is here, because I haven't had to run into this one yet. This one, like I said, this bike was involved in an accident, and I hit some rocks, and it's really evident now how bad it was. I was telling you how this is all flat, so this is all flat in here. You can feel it's raised here, a couple flat spots here and dents. So I'm not sure what we can do there. Figure that one out as we get there. Yeah, this, you know, the back axle plates aren't level to each other. They're off. So it just continues up. So again, what I'll have to do is I'm going to move that perimeter frame. I'm going to move it in line with the seat post, and we're going to have to pull and push at this point. Now, you know, notice how all the paint's off, because there was damage there. There was some flexing which pops that paint. So that's where there's been damage. And we're going to have to bring that whole frame this way. We're going to have to just get it cocked back, and see what that does for us. Stay tuned.